Hi, I'm Paul,
And this is Lynn.
and we are
Along the way.
and we're glad that you're along the way with us.
Yes.
So today is a ministry topic,
Whew.
and
And it's
also
a heavy one.
we'd like to address how you handle the crisis of death in the congregation, and especially death of someone who is close to your church family, to yourself and to your church family. So hopeful that this might be a benefit to you because we're all going to face it if you haven't already.
And it's close to our hearts right now because we just lost someone, and and his wife is still in ICU from the accident.
And because of that, there's certain details that obviously we're not going to share in this venue, but um, the reality is something we all face. And how do you deal, first of all, I guess, with your congregation that's grieving when the whole church is grieving because of somebody close? How do you deal with that? And how do you deal with a congregation that wants to help and doesn't know what to do?
Yep. And I don't know when you're watching this, but at the present time, COVID is still an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and so hospitals are clamping down and only allowing one person to see patients and stuff. So there's a restriction the government is imposing upon us on how to love one another.
Yeah, I am not allowed to go into the patient's room. Only one dedicated family member, which also means other family members can't go in. One person is allowed, and that person exclusively. That's our situation here in our state. It may be different where you are,
Right.
but that's a reality we have to work with right now.
So you have a tragedy, unexpected death. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a tragic, unexpected death and one where the person has been ill for a long time
Mm-hmm.
or is old and their time is winding down.
Yeah, we expect those things. That's kind of in the
That's
more normal frame of reference. But when it's someone who's in the middle of life and active and healthy and all that kind of stuff, and it's just suddenly snatched away, uh, that's far more difficult. So, um, one of the things that we have done right from the beginning, this is one of the closest such tragedies that we've had. There have been others, but this is one of the closest. Um, but when this kind of thing has happened before, we make a point to address the congregation up front right away. Uh, you don't want to just assume everybody's going to handle it just fine on their own. They may, but we need each other. When one member of the body hurts, we all hurt. Uh, so we address it in a number of ways. I'll list one. Perhaps you might identify some other ways that we
mm-hmm.
do it. But I make a point on addressing that the following Sunday, gearing the message, whatever I might be preaching on series-wise, that goes out the window. This is a time for the shepherd to speak to the sheep. And so it becomes a time of addressing the congregation in a healing way. So that's one thing that I do. What would be something else in terms of?
Well, today we have email,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a prayer announcement section from the church to our people. And so we can quickly uh, get the information out. Um, but in each of the emails, we try to uh, thank them for their prayers, thank them for how they've been showing encouragement to the family
Mm-hmm.
left behind, um, not just the details of what's happening with the family, but remembering to thank them for their prayers and for their giving
Mm-hmm.
and and things like that.
Yeah.
We try to be as personable as we can in an email
Yeah.
and encouraging as we can in an email. Um,
And you, obviously, well, I hope it's obvious. You need to be personal with the immediate family. Um, but I recognize there are some in ministry who are more pastoral than others in terms of gifting. Um, if that's not where your strength lies, don't let that stop you from getting shoulder to shoulder with family members and being personal. They need you at that time, and need
like
you as a couple.
and like with any death in a family, um, you go and you be there to just be there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to say all that much other than we love you and we're praying for you.
Yeah.
Um, because that happened in our own lives when we lost our son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've been acquainted with grief at all, you know that people on the outside of your immediate circle, they want to say the right thing, and one of two things happens: either they don't say anything because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, or else they keep stumbling over themselves trying to say all the right things, and when that gets repeated person after person after person, as caring as they are being, it can get hard. You're standing there with a plastic smile trying to receive all of the well wishes and knowing they're being genuine and appreciating it. But at the same time, it gets wearying, and it wears you down as the grieving person. So as in the pastoral role, you want to be there for the family, but you don't have to come up with a lot of platitudes and the perfect statement and that kind of stuff. They need to know that you're there. If they need answers, if they just need someone to pray with, if they just need a shoulder to cry on, or just the security of knowing there's another human being who cares, and they're going to be there. It's critical. It's very critical.
Yeah.
It's also true that sometimes, depending on the circumstances, whatever the nature of the tragedy is, the family members on the outside trying to put the pieces back together, they may not have experience in this and may not know even the questions to ask and what to do. This might be a learning experience for you if you're a younger pastor or just a pastor who hasn't encountered much of that. I wish I could say we haven't encountered much of that, but there's been a lot. And after 40 plus years of ministry, it's been 40, yeah. We've encountered a lot. Don't come across as a know-it-all. Just be a resource person. Help guide them to whether it's attorneys or funeral homes or whatever the need might be. You can be a great resource for them, and you need to be right away, tactfully, but don't skirt the issues just because they're hurting. They're going to hurt more if some of those questions aren't dealt with early. So.
Yeah. Okay. You're like the quiet strength in the background that is holding this whole situation together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is probably the best way to describe a pastor in a situation where there's a tragic death in a family, or even an anticipated one. To be in the background, holding things together.
Yeah. Their world is falling apart.
Yep.
And you represent at that moment the Lord who changes not. And so just to have something solid like that is really important.
Yep.
Yeah. There was something else related to this that I think is really important, and that is the congregation does want to help. They want to do something.
They do, and in this situation, they can't give meals. The spouse is still in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So we put together. You could give gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
You could write a little note, and gift cards to restaurants, because that's a heavy expense on the kids with weeks of their parent in the hospital.
Perhaps even gift cards for gas, because it might be a lot of transportation back and forth sometimes from a distance. So
Yeah.
anything like that is super practical, and it's something that the body can
Right.
do, and even if it's a few dollars here and there. So.
That's right. If they can only give $2 or $3, hey, it's a gallon of gas.
Yeah. There were people who and continue to provide snacks.
Yes.
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 And I tell you what, just to be able to be the delivery boy for something like that, when I'd go to visit the family who's camped out at the hospital, to have a bag that's got snack items that they really enjoy, it just lights them up. It takes some of the heaviness right out of the room. So those are very, very real practical things.
Yep. And the last final thing is bring humor.
Yep.
Not a comedian,
No.
but bring about some humor. The person who is departed, you had moments with, and particularly when it's somebody close in the congregation, and bring humor into it. Something that's personable to your relationship.
Always watch the faces when you do something like that, because some people are going to be really ready for that and just so appreciative. Others aren't going to be quite ready for that yet. And if you see that beginning to happen, close down, then take your cue. But don't avoid it altogether. Humor has a wonderful way of healing.
Yep.
And
Well, it's the joy of the Lord is our strength.
that's right. That's right. So, humor without flippancy, like she said, humor without trying to be a comedian, but remembering some of those lighter moments that
The
you
fun-
all enjoyed
the
with
fun
that person.
moments
That's right. That's right. Frankly, whether it's a sudden tragedy or not, when I meet with a family in their home after losing someone, we're talking funeral preparations, things like that. Those are somber meetings. One of the things I intentionally do is help them reminisce. We'll look at pictures. If they haven't brought them out, I'll see a picture on a mantelpiece or something like that, and I'll use that as a tool for getting them to talk about the person they've lost and starting to remember some of the better times. You don't have to camp out there, but to bring it up, make it a part of the conversation really does help the healing process along.
Absolutely. So it's a heavy topic this week, but it is a part of ministry.
Yeah.
And a huge, huge part of ministry. And so this is Lynn.
And this is Paul. And thank you for joining us for along the way. We do hope that you'll put your questions, your comments, your experiences in the comment section below. That will help us a lot and help others a lot as well.
Yep. So like,
And
subscribe, pass it on
And we'll see you along
along the way. Bye-bye.